Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today I want to talk the good, the bad, and the ugly of folios. Not so much the ugly, because I don't think any of them are ugly, but it was a good way to get us started. I get so many questions, and I really want to answer your burning questions, but mostly I want to focus on the question you always ask me, and that is, what paper do you recommend? You always say, which cardstock is it? Which one should we use? And I'm going to focus on that today, but I also am going to take the time to show you some things that are warnings for the wrong cardstocks being used. So stick around to the end. We'll hit that in the end, but let's get started with these. Now, I have a lot of folios in my stash. These are samples we have made in videos. You will recognize them. We will link these videos below as much as we can. But what I wanted to do was bring some of these guys in. This is actually a legal pad folio from last year, I think, or maybe the year before. What I want to do is bring some of these in and just show you, first off, what is a folio in case you're new to this. For me, a folio is the modern answer to scrapbooking. For those of us who just don't have the time to do huge pages and pages of one photo scrapbooking or 12 by 12 scrapbooking, things like that, this is a great way to make your scrapbooking and just focus on 1 or 2 or 12 or 10 pictures. You know what I'm saying? And this is how we get that done with these folios. The best thing about them is they are made from cardstock. They are simple. This entire piece, except for this ribbon, is cardstock, a paper pack, and some magnets. That's all it takes. That's another thing we love about them. You don't have to have a lot to make these happen. A scoreboard, a trimmer, honestly, that's it. This one right here, you saw the magnet, so it uses a magnet. It's using cardstock, and then I just use the paper to make this happen. Now, this one, there is a stamp set that we use, but honestly, you can do so much with so little with these folios. So I think that's why people have fallen in love with them. Also, they're just easy to do and easy to follow. I understand the question, though, of which cardstock to use. This is actually one that gets the most questions. This folio in particular, let me do this and show you, is sturdy, okay? This folio is sturdy. And I want to show you why, okay? First off, it is made from PA Grocer's Craft cardstock, which we'll talk about in just a second, okay? But secondly, it's because it has photos and it also has cardstock layered. All right, so we'll talk about why that makes a difference. But everyone who comes in the store and fills this one goes, where do I get this board to make this from? It's not a board, it is actually cardstock. You can see here that's a single piece in the middle, a cover, and a cover. And we'll talk about why that works. Now, some of these are made with thicker cardstocks than others, and some are made with thinner. This one is actually made from my favorite, very inexpensive ream of cardstock from PA. That's just 110-pound cardstock that is not cover. It's not even super heavy. Now, this is a 49 and market piece I added to the inside. We magneted it in, but you don't really have to have the most sturdy cardstock to make these happen. And I think that's what really deters people from trying, is thinking they have to have some super sturdy, really expensive cardstock. You really don't. This one is made from that same PA cardstock. This is made from PA, but it is cover stock, so it's a little sturdier. But let me show you this. So this one, which became kind of a crowd favorite, is made from the cardstock itself. There is nothing fancy here. This is Mente cardstock, and I didn't even start with a plain cardstock. I started with this one because I wanted to show off the Mente. Let me take this out to show you this pocket. I wanted to show that off. So that is one piece of cardstock that made this folio, and I think it turned out gorgeous. I absolutely love it. See if I can get everything back in the pocket there. So you don't even have to start with cardstock. You can just start with a paper pack, if that makes sense. I hope that it is making sense. But even that center construction, all that is just designer paper. It's cardstock. Nothing is paper. If I say paper today, I mean cardstock. I'm not working with paper. So there's that. Also, there's this guy, and it is made from Mente. Just Mente cardstock. That's it. There's no layers. I just literally cut and scored the cardstock itself to assemble this one. Now, are there differences? Yes, there are. Let me point out some of these. This is kind of some of the ugly, okay? When you're building these guys with just the cardstock, meaning you're not layering and layering and layering, let me bring that one back over and we'll compare apples to apples. So this one, because it's made with a cardstock and then layered on top or matted on top with other cardstock, it has the benefit of having designer cardstock, glue, another cardstock under it, and then on the back side, glue and another cardstock. So this can get super, super sturdy, where this guy's not going to be like that because he's just a piece of cardstock. And can you see how he started to warp a little bit? Humidity can cause that. Now, is that a bad thing? Not for me. I love for these guys to feel worn and to look old because that looks like they're loved, right? And we've really used them. Another thing I want to point out, in here, I was very careful to only use the cardstock. Now, I did add a piece of ribbon for stability because I didn't want this to fall apart, but this is just a single piece of cardstock. Single piece sandwiched on top of the magnet. This one is not going to give you that sturdy notebook or wood sounding effect. Can you see the difference? That one's very hollow. That one's very thick. You can see the difference. Can it be done? Yes. So do I have to have 5 or 6 different types of cardstock to make a folio? No, you don't. You can start with just something like this. And look how beautiful. Like all the work's done for you when you're using the paper. Now, there are places where I think you need the heavier cardstock, and let's talk about one. So this one in particular, I did make sure I used a cover stock, okay? This is a nice sturdy cardstock all in and of itself. The reason for that is this is a big folio. This is the 8x10 folio we did. And because it is so heavy and it's holding so much, I don't want to make something like this with single cardstock, meaning I don't want to just cut the cardstock and put the album together without layer and layer of other pieces. So you can see here, and by the way, all of these have tutorials. We will link them below for you. Full tutorials on how to build these and how I did it and all that good stuff. The cream color you see right here, that is cardstock. That is what I built this one with, okay? Then when we add all of these decorator paper layers and all the glue and the adhesive, that's what makes these so sturdy. You hear that? You're not going to hear that kind of sturdiness when you're using a single, I'll show you, a single piece like this. You're just not going to get that same sturdiness. So why am I showing you all these differences? Well, I want you to know that I would rather you go to your stash and grab out some cardstock and put one of these guys together to experience it than worry about having the perfect cardstock, okay? Because I think what holds us back is I think people go, I don't have the same cardstock Maymay's using, or I don't have that super sturdy stuff and I won't be able to get the same result. I get a lot of different results, okay? So because I use different cardstocks. This one, for example, this one's pretty good, but it's very loose. You see how easy it folds and things like that? But it's just a PA 12 by 12 inch cardstock that we use to make this, and it doesn't feel like wood, but it doesn't feel flimsy either, if that makes sense. So I guess the point of this video is this. I would rather you try. See what it feels like to create one, and don't be as worried about the cardstock. Now, some cardstocks are going to give you a richer feel in their construction. This is a good example. This is one that Shannon used as an example in one of her classes. It's not a finished folio. It's one she was using in class to create, to teach from. This one is made fully constructed with Cardabella cardstock, okay? So I don't know how I'm going to explain this to you. I'm going to try. If you look inside of here, there's no photos in here. Nothing has been added yet. Okay, this is important to see this. Nothing has been added except a couple of pieces of decorator cardstock where she was showing how to do that. But even without it being finished, even without all the extra layers of cardstock, even without the photos that will go in here, listen to the sturdiness of this one. You can hear the difference because of the cardstock we used. You can feel it in your hand. It's very crisp and clean because it's made with white cardstock from Cardabella here, which is actually made from felt, which is one of their, it's basically Cardabella cardstock that hasn't got a print on it. It's just a solid color. Then it's layered with Cardabella. This, when it's finished, will be nice and sturdy. Now, that probably just makes common sense. But I will tell you, there's some cardstock that I don't think I would use in all of this construction. For example, Not Your Mama's cardstock. Let's talk about that one. So this is Not Your Mama's. And a lot of times you would think the thicker the cardstock, the better. But it's going to depend on where you're using it. Let me open this one. So I want you to hear this cardstock without anything else. Just listen. This is thick cardstock. Watch this. See how that doesn't give as much? It's not as easy to get it to turn back. I'll show you that in comparison to a thinner version. So this is a 110-pound cardstock, but it is not cover. This is by PA, by the way. Listen to the difference. You can see the difference. See the difference? Okay. So when I build with this, by the way, let me show you. This album was built with it. It's a good sturdy album. It does show some wear points quicker. You can see here there's little wear points where I've picked it up and folded and opened several times. But this one is built with this one. And it works fine because I'm layering it. I won't use it as the only build, but I will layer on top of it. This one is great for the outside. So like if you're just building the outside section of maybe this one, it's great for that. It's good for the outside of this one. Matter of fact, the 49 and Market cardstock, which is absolutely gorgeous too, if you've had any of their albums, the pages they use inside, their cardstock is the same. It is beautiful. But that one makes this one really well, that heavier cardstock for the outside. Where you don't want to use this, let me show you, which is a good thing because we're going to save money. We don't want to use this everywhere. This is more expensive cardstock, right? I definitely would not want to use Not Your Mama's right here. See where this all folds back on itself and I need it to be kind of malleable? I wouldn't want to use Not Your Mama's here because it's just too thick to get that sharp, flat bend that I need to make this happen. It's not too thick to get the outer bend, but stacking it on itself, think about it, 130-pound cardstock rolled up on itself, that's a lot. Now, a place that is really good to use this thick of a cardstock is when you're making like photo mats, like down here in this bottom pocket. This is a perfect place to use the Not Your Mama's because it's going to be nice and sturdy and you're just sliding that into a pocket and you don't need it to fold back on itself or crease super, super flat. So, and I should have started with this, but I'm going to tell you this. I don't believe there's any bad cardstock because I've made a folio with every kind of cardstock you can imagine. I've even made folios with, let me show you this one. So this is Sizzix cardstock. This is one of their packs that has all the beautiful colors in it. So this one does not, when you make a folio out of it, it does not feel like those other ones. Let me show you why. Number one, it's textured. I hope you can see that texture in there. Okay. Number two, it's super soft. Do you see this? Super soft cardstock. And it sounds a lot more like the PA that is not cover stock because this is definitely not cover stock. But I made a whole year's worth of folios out of this, and when we added our layers and our layers to it, it worked perfectly well. So again, I guess we lean back to, why are you making this video? Because I want you to feel empowered with what you have in your stash to make a folio. You don't have to have super special cardstock, and I pretty much use whatever I can get my hands on. Like, I'm just that person. This one, I showed y'all this one already, and this one is made with, I think this one is actually made with Cardabella linen, which is not as thick as the felt, but it still works just as fine. And then we added the Cardabella on top, which made it super thick. So that's kind of the what paper you should use. I just can't say to you, use this paper. I would prefer you take out, matter of fact, here's what I would encourage you to do. If you've got some cardstock you don't really love, make a couple folios with that to learn how to make the folio, then use your better cardstock. And I bet when you do that, you'll see how they just kind of work. Let's talk about where we do need to pay attention as far as like our cardstock is concerned. One place I think we should pay attention to is on the inside. Let me find one that'll be a good example of that. This one might be. So in here, do you see how I've got all of these layers on top of each other? Like there's a little notebook in here and there's pockets and things like that. You need to be mindful of how thick you make these areas because of the amount of gusset you have. I left myself no gusset here. Do you see it's just a fold? This gives me gusset or spine space. So thicker cardstock takes up more of that space. So when you're building, you need to think about what cardstock you're using for your space as well. Thinner cardstock, obviously, is going to give you, a little more room. Also think about this. I did not add photos to this, okay? So therefore, I'm not adding another layer on top of it. So the thicker your cardstock plus the photos, the more space it takes up. So if you've watched this video today and it sparked more questions for you, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. I've done this in the past. If you ask your question, we'll compile them and then I'll do like a Q&A video for you guys to answer all those questions. But here's where I want to leave you with a challenge, okay? This album and this album are actually the same. This is just a half version of this, and I have videos on it. I challenge you, if you've not made a folio, if you've been worried or terrified or I just cannot do that, I challenge you to try this one. Again, the video will be linked below. Matter of fact, we'll call this Try This One and have the links below for you, because I think pretty much any cardstock will work with these. This is not a difficult one to assemble, but you get a lot out of it. And I don't feel like you have to have a super thick cardstock to make this one happen. But when you're done with it, I think you'll really love the results. Don't worry if you don't have this little guy. We do have these in the store for you, but if you don't have it, just make it like this and just see what it feels like. If for no other reason to say you made a folio, and also just to kind of enjoy the construction as you're constructing it, because this will help you in your card life too when you're making cards. As you're constructing, see how it feels. See how the paper feels. A lot of things you'll discover. This paper that I told you is a pretty thin paper. When I score it, something I learned about it is I come out better scoring it on top and bottom instead of just on one side. And I didn't know that until I started playing with this cardstock. And now that I do, and now that I've used it for a folio or whatever, I know even when I'm making a card, I want to score this one top and bottom. So you learn other things about the cardstock when you're making these projects. So that's why I challenge you, try a folio, whether you've ever done it or not. Even if you don't need pictures, maybe you just need a notebook. Maybe you just need a folio cover. A legal pad cover. Try that. Maybe you want to, this one right here is made with just PA. This is 80 pound. I can tell by feeling it. So 80 pound cover. Super easy to make. Super easy. So I just challenge you to give these guys a go. I don't even remember what all the flaps are anymore. I've made so many of them where the flaps go. This one is the front, and then when you flip it over, there's another one on the back there. It's like a double-sided folio is what this one is. So anyway, all of that to say, give it a try. And I hear your questions, and I wish I could give you one answer. There just isn't one answer. Also, here's another thing I'll tell you. You're going to have a preference. I have a preference. You're going to have a preference. Based on what I'm making, I'm going to have a cardstock I prefer for that versus another project that I'm making. So be mindful of the cardstock you're using. Learn your favorite. And I'll tell you this because we've seen this from experience. Until you have some of these that we talk about in your hands and until you use them, you cannot always tell. On screen, it is hard to tell how sturdy these guys turn out being, because it's just hard to convey that through the camera. But I've had customers come into my retail store and I'll hand them a folio and they won't believe that I made it from cardstock because maybe the cardstock they're using is not the same quality. Again, no cardstock is bad because I can use it all, but there is a quality difference in cardstock. All right, guys, I hope that answered at least how to pick your cardstock, and I hope it challenges you to try a folio just for fun. Just see what it feels like. You may or may not become a folio maker. You probably will once you make one. But if you don't want to do that, then just start paying attention when you're making your cards. What is your favorite? How does it react? Again, in the comments below, use that as a question area. The more questions I get, the more I can answer, and I love that. Thank y'all so much for being here. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and consider subscribing. It's free. You just click the button and you're subscribed, and that way YouTube will send you notifications when I put out my next video. Thanks so much for being here, and until next time, bye now.